is the most current guidance on when the House is voting. Now, why is that important? Well, directly below the press gallery is the House chamber, and that is where members go to vote. And members have to vote physically in person. They have to be able to get into the room and out of the room, and the entire area around the chamber is open to journalists. So if you ever want to get a member of Congress for quotes or for a quick conversation, or walk back to their office with them, or have some FaceTime, votes is the time when you want to be here. So as a journalist working in the Capitol, this is really important information. And if you want a quick way to just know, hey, when is the House voting? Put this into your phone, go to our website, and at the very top of the screen, it'll tell you in red when we're voting. The other thing that I want to point out about our website is we've got a rotator here that takes you through different things that we want to point out that are important. Right now, we have applications for the DNC and RNC credentials. If anyone on this webinar is planning on going to the DNC convention or the RNC convention, you have to get your press credentials through us, and you have to apply by February 9th, which is fairly soon. So if you haven't applied to go to the DNC and the RNC, go to pressgallery.house.gov and apply soon. The next site that I want to show you is majorityleader.gov. So this is the site that is run by Steve Scalise, and the thing that there are a couple things that are important on here. One of them is the schedule, the daily schedule and the weekly schedule. If you're wondering what's happening in Congress this week, the night before, we're going to get a daily schedule for the next day. The Friday before, usually, we get the weekly schedule for the next week. But we also have here the calendar. So the 2024 calendar is going to show you when the House is in session. The House is not in session all the time, and this calendar tends to change from time to time. So don't download it and then think that this is the calendar forever. This is the calendar until we make another change. But if you go to majorityleader.gov and you're wondering if the House is going to be in session on the week of the 22nd, well, right now the answer is no, and there won't be any members in DC. Next thing I want to get on your radar is live.house.gov. So live.house.gov is a site run by the clerk, and this is also accessible on your phone. This is the site that if you're following what's happening on the floor and you don't have C-Span available to you, I will defer to my C-Span colleagues who are on here also and are going to show you some similar stuff. This is the government version of what C-Span is going to also offer. I can click the play button and I can see what's happening on the floor right now. But over here on the right, this is where you'll see the clerk's official breakdown from time to time of what has happened so far. So we went into 1-minute speeches, and then before that we did debate, and before that, so you can find what you're looking for that happened today, see the timestamp, and then use the scroll bar over here in the video to go to that specific spot. Under caption text, this is going to show you the unedited closed caption text of everything that has happened on the House floor today. And you can search it. So if I want to see, did anyone say the word Hunter? Well, there was one. Did anyone say the word Biden? Well, there were quite a few. It will show you each of the people that said that word, and if their speech was longer than will fit on the screen, then you can click the button with 3 dots, and it will show you the full the full speech. Now, this is an unedited closed caption text. This is what shows up on the television. It's kind of sort of accurate. Would I want to quote from it in an article? Absolutely not. But it gives you the timestamp, and then you can go back and hit play and go find that time, hit play, see it for yourself. Then you've had eyes on it. You don't need multiple sources. You've seen it. You can report it as fact. At the top of the screen also, instead of searching for a specific person, I could filter in the top left corner. There's a speakers drop down, and this will show you a list of all the speakers. So if you want to see what did Mr. Garamendi say today, I can highlight that, and it will show you all the times that Mr. Garamendi spoke today, and then you can see what he spoke about. So especially like if you're a regional reporter, that's really useful, because let's say you're covering Pennsylvania and you have your list of these are all the members that you care about. You might want to go to this site every day and see what did my Pennsylvania members say today, You
It was
can take a quick look
at the mall when I was
and then go from there.
Texas in the mall.
The next site that I want to show you is
Yeah.
clerk.house.gov slash
I didn't
members.
like plan on doing it for real. So I didn't like go there
Well,
and I
I
just
think
run around the mall trying
somebody's
to
not
find
on
shit.
mute.
And I was like, you do want this watch? And I just walked to the Apple store and got it.
Who's not on mute?
I was trying to get everything done at that mall.
Hey, Alexis, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Okay, so clerk.house.gov slash members. This is the site operated by the clerk's office that is going to show you specific information about members of Congress. Now, where is this useful? Well, if you're walking around the halls of Congress and you're about to go talk to a member, especially if you're like a new reporter, the worst thing that you can do is walk up and say, you know, hi, Mr. McGovern, but then it's not Mr. McGovern. So we have 435 members of Congress, maybe a little less, never a little more, maybe a little less. And you know, if you want to know, is that actually Alma Adams, I type Adam, I hit enter, and it's going to show me all the Adams, Adam Schiff, Adam Smith, and Alma Adams. Now, if you're in the chamber and somebody says, I'll yield to the gentleman from Florida, and you think, who is that? But I know the person is from Florida, you can type the state. So I type Florida, and then I scroll down, and now I'm looking at the Facebook of the entire Florida delegation. Now, before I go up and talk to Mr. Bilirakis, for example, I can click on any member, and it's going to show you a couple useful pieces of information. One of them is a map of this person's district. Sometimes when you're talking to someone, like, you know, this person's from Florida, but like where in Florida? Okay, so this guy is right north of Tampa, and you might have been to Tampa, so now you have something to talk about to create a relationship with that person. Another thing that's useful is on the left side here, it'll show you where the person's office is. So if you ever need to go to Mr. Bilirakis' office and you don't know where it is, clerk.house.gov/members, you search for him, and then it will show you. It also has a phone number. If you need to call the main line, this is the main line. And of course, it has the website. Now, also interesting here is the site will show you a list of all the committees and subcommittees that this member is on. And if you're about to walk up to a member, you know, you might not have realized that he was on the health subcommittee, but there's this big health thing happening, and you were going to talk to him about something else, but you got him right in front of you. So you say, hey, well, while we're at it, can we talk about Obamacare? And then maybe you'll get the quote that becomes the newsworthy thing that day. And then further down, it's going to show you a list of all the votes that this member has done and the disposition of those votes. Now, speaking of votes, the next site that I'm going to show you is clerk.house.gov/votes. Clerk.house.gov/votes will show you the roll call vote breakdowns of all the votes that we have had in Congress. Now, so far, we've had 3. We had a quorum call yesterday. We had voting on the previous question for today's rule. By the way, anybody following Congress, the previous question, when they're voting on the previous question, they're voting on whether or not to vote. So it's a procedural vote that's sort of a last chance before we actually vote on this thing. We're going to vote on whether or not we're going to vote on it. So if you ever see previous questions, just know that they're not voting on the thing. They're voting on whether or not to vote on the thing. So the previous question passed today for the rule, providing for consideration of the things that we were going to do this week, but then the rule itself failed. So the rule here, it failed by a vote of 203 to 216. These roll call vote breakdowns, they show up about 20 minutes after the last vote in the series. So if we're voting on 5 things, then the result of the vote is going to show up 20 minutes after the last thing. So if your thing is the first in the list of 5, you have to wait till all the other things are voted on, and then 20 minutes, and then it will show up here. So if you need to know, like, what's the final vote breakdown, you can get an official answer here, but you can also get it on Twitter. The press gallery, we tweet the top level numbers for votes. The Republican cloakroom does, the Democrat cloakroom does. If all 3 of our numbers match and you still haven't gotten here, you can usually count on that being an accurate number. But this is the official source from the clerk, and it's not officially tallied. and posted until they've been able to verify everything. But the next thing, oh, by the way, when you're looking at one of these votes, if I click on view details, so for the rule vote that we had today, we had 203 ayes, 216 noes, and then 14 people didn't vote. Well, if you want to know who those people are that didn't vote, you can filter. So I can filter by party, by state, or by vote. If I click on vote and I say not voting, this is going to show you a list of all the members that didn't vote today. Let's say you are in the Capitol and you need to find a member of Congress. Well, if we've already had a vote series that day, you want to look this up here and see, did this person vote? Is this person actually in the building today before you spend 4 hours in the hallway waiting for that person to come by? I could also say, who are the Republicans who voted no? So here's a list of all the Republicans that voted no on the bill. And it tallies it up and gives it to me pretty quick. There's a lot of other information on the clerk's site. So one of the things that I'd recommend anybody who's covering Congress, take a couple hours someday and just go through every one of these top level things. So like under member information, for example, we've got demographics. And under demographics, there's a list of all kinds of types of members. If you want to see all the members that were expelled or our former mayors or our lawyers, all the members that are running for another office. Let's say I want to see all of the members with doctoral degrees. Well, here's a list of every member of Congress that has a doctorate, and then on the right side, you see what kind it is. So this person is a pharmacist, this person has a doctor of philosophy, PhDs in there, they're usually some MDs. And I think the medical professionals are in a different list, medical professionals over here. So I encourage everybody to take a moment to go through the clerk's site. There's lots of information that can be useful for content for your articles in there. The next thing I want to show you is ebs.senate.gov. And by the way, if you're worried about writing these things down, I sent Tia a list of all these sites that she can send out to you. So don't worry about the notes. I have this list for you. So ebs.senate.gov, this is a site organized by the Radio TV Gallery, and this will show you a list of all of the press conferences that are happening on the Hill tomorrow. So if you're wondering, are there any press conferences that I need to go to? So the House comes into session at 10 for morning hour, but legislative business doesn't happen until noon. So you might be thinking, I don't need to come till noon, but at 11:45 a.m., Leader Jeffries is holding a press conference in Studio A. So if you're ever wondering when the speaker, when the leader are having press conferences, once it becomes official that they're having a press conference, it's going to show up on here. This site works for both the House and the Senate. The other things that I'm showing you are all House-specific things, but this one is a cross-House Senate thing. This is also, by the way, available on your phone. So if you go to ebs.senate.gov, you can always check to see, are there any press conferences happening in the building today? And if something is showing up as Studio A here, I could show up in person and ask a question, or you could see it on C-Span. One of the C-Spans, depending on what else is going on, one of the C-Spans will probably cover this because he's the Democratic leader. And if C-Span isn't covering it, then check with Jeffrey's press team. The next site that I want to show you is directory.house.gov. This is our phone book. And if you're ever wondering, like, who do I need to contact? Let's say there's a hot button issue that you're writing about, and I'm just going to scroll down to a random member. Judy Chu. We'll click on Judy Chu. So I'm going to check off Judy Chu, and then on the right side of the screen, here's a list of all of Judy Chu's staffers. And you can scroll through the list. Every member doesn't have like a ton of staff, so it's an easily scrollable list. But if you wanted to search, you could search for COM, and it finds all the people with com in their title, or press. Looks like press assistant. She's got a press assistant and a comms director. So the way that emails work in the House, first.last@mail.house.gov is our naming convention for email addresses. So graham.cruz@mail.house.gov will get you to this comms director. And this number listed is usually the main number. So I'm going to uncheck Judy Chu and then go back here. And then I'm going to uncheck members. And then instead, I'm going to go to committees. And then let's say on the ethics committee, I want to know who to contact. Well, this is actually probably, I don't think they have a comms person, but I'm going to pick somebody that does. Foreign Affairs will have a comms person. So the Committee on Foreign Affairs, if I click search for communications, for the committees, you're going to see majority staff and minority staff. It's always good to contact both the majority and the minority, especially if you're trying to find out a secret. If you're hunting down an article, sometimes the majority will tell you, sometimes the minority will tell you. But here you have the contact information for both. So if I search for communications, here are all the communications staffers. It looks like they've got a few communications directors. There's the majority one, the minority one, and again, leslie.shed@mail.house.gov will get you to this person's email. The next site that I want to point out is Congressional Research Service. Anytime you're writing an article and you want to be the expert on that thing, but you don't have time to like become the House historian, which is probably most of the time that you're writing an article. CRS, a lot of the times, has done the legwork for you in advance. So CRS creates reports for members of Congress to inform them, like academic style reports to inform them on topics related to Congress. So let's say, for example, we've got the State of the Union coming up on March 7th. Let's say you're tasked with writing an article about the State of the Union. Anytime you're writing about something, always search for CRS and see if there's a CRS report. It will make you seem like an expert on the topic. I'm going to search for State of the Union. And here, this first one that pops up, History, Evolution, and Practices of the President's State of the Union Address, Frequently Asked Questions. It was last updated on January 24th, 2023. So it was last updated last year, right before the State of the Union. And let's take a look at the contents. Who gave the first State of the Union? Which president stopped delivering the State of the Union in person and why? How long did this practice last? Who revived the practice of delivering the speech in person? So the State of the Union hasn't always been done in person. It doesn't have to be done in person. This article is 10 pages long and it gives you lots of historical background. This could be interesting, like color for your article. Because we always want to compare you guys are writing the first draft of history. Well, you can relate it back to, the previous draft of history. But CRS is such a good resource. The other thing I want to point out about CRS, if you're following floor procedure, if you're following what's happening on the House floor, there is a CRS report called Commonly Used Motions and Requests in the House of Representatives. This is required reading for anyone who's covering the House floor. And this basically gives you the high level overview of all of the parliamentary procedures that are happening on a day-to-day basis on the floor. So if you want to know what 1-minute speeches are, if you want to know the background of personal privilege or points of order. It won't take you long to get through this, but if you're following C-Span and the House floor, then this is the stuff that you really actually need to know to understand what's going on. It's not as fun to watch a football game if you don't know the rules of football. This is where you find the rules. And the last thing that I want to show you guys is congress.gov. Every bill that gets introduced, passed, sent through the legislative process shows up on congress.gov. If I search for HR 2 and I hit enter, it's going to show what HR 2 is for the 118th Congress. keep in mind that when you search for HR2, every Congress probably has an HR2. At the beginning of the next Congress, all the numbers go away. We reuse the numbers from year to year. So if you're looking for last year's HR2, Congress.gov has a lot of really cool features. Like you can search for the full text within legislation. You can go down and look at a specific Congress going all the way back to 1973. So if you're looking for the text of legislation that's done 20 years ago, this is where you want to go. And anybody covering Congress on a daily basis, I would again block off some time and just go through all these options on the left side of the screen. Make yourself familiar with what you can find here, because you can find some really cool stuff. Back to our HR2 example, I hit enter on here. HR2, it passed the House. We know it passed the House. If I scroll down a little bit, one of the things that is really useful as a reporter is to see a list of all the co-sponsors. If you're writing about HR2, who's going to tell you about HR2? The people that sponsored HR2, because they wrote the legislation. If you're trying to answer a question that hasn't been answered yet, the people who know the answer to that question, those are the folks that are in this co-sponsor list. So again, like in this case, Andy Biggs is one of the co-sponsors. You go back to directory.thehouse.gov, you go to Andy Biggs, you find his comms director, send an email out and say, hey, can you clarify this thing about HR2? There's lots more stuff. There's a longer version of this. I'm happy to deliver it in person. We're in H319 in the House Press Gallery. My email is edward@mail.house.gov. It's also edward.kaczynski@mail.house.gov, but it's easier just to do edward@mail.house.gov. Feel free to send me questions if you are wondering how to do things, how to find things, logistics related to the Capitol. We are here to help. And anybody who is actively working as a reporter with a hard pass in the Capitol, I absolutely encourage all of you to swing by my desk, get to know us, and there's a longer version of this presentation that I'd be happy to give you one-on-one. So open invite.
So Ed, I know we said we are going to take questions at the end, but before we go to the C-SPAN part, someone asked about credentialing, and I wanted to just briefly let you go over that before we go to C-SPAN.
Yeah. So credentialing is done by the Standing Committee of Correspondence, which is the elected 5-member board of journalists that oversees press operations in the Capitol. And the intake for credentials is done through my Senate counterpart. And so if you go to, this is not the, there's the Senate Press. What is the Senate Press Galleries? Let me give you a phone number. Or if you have a specific question about credentialing, you can send me an email also. But essentially, here's the process. You'll contact the Senate Press Gallery. They'll have you fill out a form, there's on the Senate Press Gallery's website, there's a list of the requirements and expectations for journalists in the Capitol, and the things that you would need to check, the boxes that you have to check off in order to qualify as a journalist. You fill out a form. They take you before the Standing Committee of Correspondence. The Standing Committee votes on you. If the Standing Committee approves you, then you are a credentialed news organization on the Hill. We credential news organizations and not individual people. So once we've credentialed the news organization, then anybody from that news organization who is sent to us, we issue them a hard pass ID. And everybody who is a journalist in the Capitol gets one of these IDs. They're gray this year, and the staff ones are green, but the journalist ones are gray, and that gives you 24-hour access to the Capitol. I would say if anybody has questions about credentialing for their specific organization, shoot me an email. I'm happy to be the person that gets you in the right spot and leads you through any bureaucracy. So. Do we have any other questions?
There was another question, but we'll get to that one at the end because I do want to go ahead
Okay.
and bring up Jeremy. So thank you, Ed. And Ed will be on the line, guys. Also, if
I'll
you
be
have
here.
a question just for Ed, you can go ahead and send him a question in the chat. Just chat with him directly. But Jeremy, we want to bring him up. So Ed will stop sharing his screen so that Jeremy can share his. Jeremy is from C-Span. And I know C-Span, as you guys probably know, is very dear to my heart. But C-Span's website has so many resources for journalists that people don't know about. So again, we're going to start with Jeremy to talk about the C-Span resources.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen here in just a second. Just a quick intro. As you said, my name is Jeremy Art. I am C-Span's Senior Social Media Specialist, I think is my title now. So I am essentially running C-Span's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube stuff on our app, which I'll mention in a minute. And then some of my colleagues work on our Instagram and TikTok and things like that. The website and video library, I'm not a coder or an engineer. I don't work actually on the website. So if you encounter a problem, it's someone else's problem. I'm just the guy who uses it a lot, first of all. And second, I present on things like this. But some of these questions, if I say I don't know, I'm not making that up. I honestly don't know. But I'm kind of a super user of the website and then try to get a lot of these things on social media on a daily basis. C-Span's been around since 1979 is when it was founded. I'm still pretty new at the company. I've only been there now for almost 16 years. A lot of people at C-Span have been there since the 80s or 90s, and it is just a few blocks from the Capitol. So we're going to look at our website, which is part kind of daily news website, and we've got live feeds and live video from the Hill and across the country. And then it is also the video library, and we archive every single video that is on C-Span, and it stays there for you. So we have over 250,000 hours worth of video that's searchable. We're going to go over that, but everything from today going back to 1987 is when we started archiving everything. We were actually re-recording over tapes, and then after the Bjork Supreme Court confirmation hearing in 87, someone said, we should probably start recording and archiving all that. So everything from 87 forward is on our website. Everything before that, some of the things we kept, some of the things we've got from other sources. But if you're looking for Sandra Day O'Connor, who she just passed away, a lot of her confirmation hearing wasn't archived by C-Span. It's just before we started archiving. But everything from 87 forward, we've got. So let me share my screen. And we will go from here. Okay, is everyone seeing C-Span's website right now? Let's just make sure. Okay, good. So this is our homepage. Now, if you came here today, up here at the top, just right where this ad is, you would see a bunch of live videos, any video that is live at the time. So the House, the Senate, any of the hearings that we were covering today, they would have been right there. You wouldn't have to search for them. It's after everyone's gavelled out for the day, so there's nothing there. But you can see some of the main events that happened today. Chris Christie dropped out of the race. You can also see Hunter Biden was on the Hill, the impeachment hearing of Secretary Mayorkas, and then here's the House floor. But all the events we covered down here on the left, you can see we covered 19 different events today. So one, the first thing I'll say is if you know what you're looking for, it's a lot easier to look here on the homepage, and it corresponds with the time that it happened. Once we start doing a search, that's where I'll say sometimes if you search for something today from the House floor, just because it sometimes takes a little while for something to be archived, it might not immediately turn up. So if you're looking for something specific from today, I try to find it here on the homepage first. Some of these things are archived automatically right as they happen, and some of them we just have to get to as the day goes on because we can only do so many events at once. So that's kind of the homepage. These are all the events that happened today. I'm going to go up here and do a search. And before I do a search, I will put in a plug for a My C-Span account. Right here, you can see I'm signed into my account. You can create a free C-Span account, just name, email, pretty simple. And then everything you do on here can save in one space. So when we make clips, if you bookmark anything, it'll all be saved here rather than you trying to save it someplace else. So please do My C-Span Account. Okay, let's do a search. I'm going to do searches for big names that I know have a lot of videos. So we're going to search first for Biden.
Huh? I had to thinking about this.
And if someone's not muted, can you just mute right
I
now?
was like, the best you could buy. Did they really name it? The best
Okay.
you could buy.
So as you can see,
I was like, I'm gonna go check this out.
when you do a
Yeah,
search,
I was like,
there are several
I've seen it
categories
on
here.
I've seen like Bettina post about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Hold on,
gotta
I'm
go
just going
there.
to
Make
And
sure
then
somebody
I
needs to
passed
mute
before that. I
themselves.
just hadn't
Somebody needs to
seen
mute
the sign.
themselves.
Then I was like, it's really the best coffee you could buy. But I was like, I heard great things. So I was like, I
Yeah,
gotta come
it's
out.
good.
Tia, I think you
Stuart?
can actually, I think you
It
can
was
actually
really
mute
good. It was
them.
delicious.
I love that. But yeah, I'll be chilling. You probably be
Help
busier
me,
than
help me know who I
I'm
need to
finna get
mute. I
busy
can't
though.
tell who it
I think
I
is.
got a
it's
presentation
S.
next week
Stewart.
that I'm
Mute
doing, so
Stuart.
thank
I already
you.
said that. I like, you know what I like? I like the maroon trench you were wearing to the
Where we went.
it was Tommy Braithwaite.
Oh,
Did you
yeah,
get
yeah,
that, Tia? There you go.
There, thank you very much. All right, so I typed in Biden, and as you can see, when you do a search here, you get several categories where they come up. If you go to people, you can see there's Joe Biden, Joe Biden. There's several Bidens, including if that person worked on Biden's campaign and it's part of their title. But we're looking for the president. And when you go to the president, every single person that's been on C-SPAN and spoken has one of these pages. It's called a bio page, and it's going to have bio information. And then every video that they've been on C-SPAN. A couple other things. If they had a district, actually, we're not going to do that for the president because he had a district, but it was a state, Delaware, so that's not quite as interesting as House districts. We'll get to that in a bit. So here's your basic information. But then if we go here to see all appearances, we will go to all of his 3,096 appearances. And you can search on this by other people he's appeared with. So how many times has he appeared with Chuck Grassley in a video? 307. Okay, and you can just click that and it goes through all that. I'm going to unclick Chuck Grassley. If you're looking for something specific, he said, like, yesterday when he was in South Carolina, he called Donald Trump a loser. I'm going to go to this video. This video is 1 hour and 2 minutes long. Now you can try watching this entire video. I apologize. We have ads on our site because we're, trying to stay in business. Skip that. Now you can watch this entire 1 hour, 2 minute speech, or you can type in loser if you know that he called Trump a loser, and here it is. That's a full transcript. You can also go to the text here. And if I click on that, it's going to go right to that spot. You can also make a clip of that. If you want to share just that moment, if you're reporting just on that, go down here in the bottom left-hand corner to this icon, and you can make a clip. So he said it right at that moment. I want to back it up about 10 seconds. And I'm going to start my clip there. So set start time.
Hold on, Jeremy. Before you do it, did you do the share audio? I think at the top you have to click share audio because we didn't hear it the first time.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's see.
That's that thing with Zoom. You got to at the top click share audio.
I see stop video participants chat.
It should be under view options.
Hang on a second.
Or maybe that's something Tia can do.
You know what? It's okay. I will just say it
I'm
works.
looking in my settings, but I don't see it.
Okay, don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm not going to play too much video. Let's not worry about that. Just know that I went right to the point in the speech where he said Trump is a loser. I am over here on the left because I backed it up about 10 seconds. That's my start time. You can keep watching it. Wait until you want the clip to end. So I've got this going for about 30 seconds. I'm going to hit next and put President Biden calls former President Trump loser. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to use the same for my description. Save clip. And we'll give it just a second, and then it should pop up a brand new URL. Here we go. Your clip was created successfully. And if I go to this page, you can see that here's my title. It's created by me. And that's because I am logged into my C-Span account. Here's my description, which I could have made longer. And then this clip is just 30 seconds instead of the 1 hour video. So instead of sharing a video and saying, go to the 42-minute mark in this video, you can just share this clip and it's just however long you want it. You can make clips as short as 5 or 10 seconds. You can make clips that are like an entire floor speech, so 1 hour long. That's entirely up to you. So don't think that you can't share an entire floor speech or an entire exchange from a committee. You can do that. You can also download these clips. So you go down here, purchase or download options, and you can see that there are various options if you need audio or whatever format you want. And again, if you have your C-Span account, a lot of them are going to be free. Okay. I'm going to do one more search. We'll do a search for Trump just to be balanced and nonpartisan. So here's Trump. And you can see all the times we've covered him. And again, if you're searching for something specific he said, maybe in his last presidency, let's see if he's ever used the term loser. He does. And also you can go over here to mentions and see every time it's come up in a transcript for him. And again, if you click on one of these, it will just go to that video and it'll go to that moment in the video if you type down here. Okay, let's talk a bit about Congress. First, here's our Congress tab, just here on the top right-hand corner. And this goes a lot with the congressional record. And so if you're looking just at what's happening on the House or Senate floor, you can go to our Congressional Chronicle. Now, like I had said, there's not been a ton of votes this year, so I'm going to go back to December. So we can look at like a slightly more exciting day. I'll go to December 13th. And you can see a lot of the action that's happened on the floor. You can search by speakers. It'll go directly to that video if you start watching it there. If we go to votes, it'll show you all the votes. It'll take you to the point in the video where the vote's occurring. And I encourage you just to play around with this. So here's the vote. And then I'm going to go back. If we go down here to past votes, you can look at votes. I saw someone asked about the Farm Bill. I don't know the Farm Bill number, but if you happen to know the number, I'm going to put 2 in here. Then you can find all the action that's happened on those particular bills. And then when you break these down, it'll show you votes by member. You can go to the votes that failed. Well, these are feature votes, I'm sorry. And just kind of go from there. And then I'm going to also look at the 13th. So now I'm just back in a video search. I'm going to go to organization. We're going to go to the House. And I want to go to the 13th of December last year. And let's see. So again, this session is 4 hours and 40 minutes. If you're looking for a specific member, we have a drop down right here for all speakers. It's Kevin Kiley. And if you click on him, that'll go right to a speech. And again, you can make a clip. Just click down here in the left hand corner and you can make a clip just of his speech if you want. We also have down here, if you're looking for a graphical timeline, so you can see where all the speakers were and then when the votes happened and what they were voting on. You can just see how much happens in the House and how much we have to chronicle. And then just to kind of go off what Ed said, State of the Union. See if I can make this work. One of the first times. Actually, let's do it another way. We have a lot of videos related to State of the Union, but I'm going to go back to Joe Biden. And we're going to click see all appearances. I'll type in State of the Union. Here's his address in 2023. We can also, we have tags down here in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you look at hosting organizations, House, Senate, and then over here on the right-hand side, we have points of interest. Our producers go through, and when there's a particular point of interest, they can do this. So you can click on those. If you're looking for a specific moment in a speech or in a hearing, you can click on these points of interest and it'll take you right there in the speech. They're also identifiable when you start the video. Points of interest are down here. And so you can click on one. And if you want to see what he says about the debt ceiling, that'll go straight to it. Okay, so we've kind of gone over how to use a homepage for things that happened today, how to search, how to make a clip, how to use the Congressional Chronicle a bit. I'm going to leave it at that and take questions at this point. And so why don't we, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and why don't we go to questions? Because I haven't been looking at the chat. So let's stop the share and go from there. So I see the question on sourcing. Basically, if you're using a C-Span video, don't crop out the C-Span logo is the first thing I'll say. So as long as you're not cropping out, I mean, C-Span logo's on there, you're giving us credit. If you credit C-Span, that's great. If you're using this for, we always tell people using a documentary, on the bottom of our site, there is a licensing page where you can learn about licensing, like if you're making a documentary. But reporters generally, when they're writing a story and they're using a 30-second clip, there are embed features, there's download features for all these videos. Use that, it'll embed, it's going to have the C-Span logos on there, and you're going to be fine. The Farm Bill, I can go back and search that later, but I encourage you to go search that since you have the number. I'm sorry I didn't see it at the time. Is there a limit to the amount of clips you can make and use on air? Please use as many as you like, just give us credit. But I've made hundreds of clips, and we've seen plenty of other people do that as well. Those are the main questions I'm seeing. Are there any other questions for me right now? If not, you guys can share my email. I will also say my colleague Robin was going to be on the call, but she sends her regrets. She's actually on the first plane tomorrow to Iowa, and it is going to be about 50 degrees colder than she was expecting. So she was doing some last minute, I think, sock shopping or some things for the warm weather. So she's going to be in Iowa for the next week. So she sends her regards, but she is not available to be here. She also sends out, if you get her email, she sends out a daily tip sheet every single day about what C-Span is going to be covering the next day. And so in addition to the House and Senate, which hearings are we covering? And if the hearing you need to cover is not on that list, you might need to actually go cover it in person. But she sends out that email every day. So if you want to get on her daily tip sheet, you can get that email as well. I'm going to stop right now. And if there's any other questions, let me know. If not, you can email me. You can share that. And my C-Span Twitter handle is C-Span Jeremy, all one word, if you have any questions there as well.
I was just going to make a quick plug for you, Jeremy. Follow his Twitter because he has these great clips on his Twitter as well. That takes you straight to the website that you can reference, that you can use.
Well, Jeremy, let me see. I think there was a question, Jeremy, about clips. Jeremy, I wanted you to talk about the clips, the limit, are there limits, and also how to make sure you give credit. So Jeremy, could you address those questions in the chat?
Right. So there's no limit to the length of your clip, and there's no limit to the number of clips. And when you download or embed, it's going to have the C-Span logo on it and the C-Span player. And so we see a lot of organizations that'll say this clip is via C-Span. That's really all you need to do. We just don't like it when other people put their logo over our logo and make it appear like they covered 16 hours of the house, because that's what we do. So that's really it.
Sorry, I'm trying to get myself off of mute. So this is the time we're going till 8 with questions and answers. So if you have more questions for either Jeremy or Ed, we have a few more minutes before we go to our brainstorming session at 9. We've got 10 minutes for questions. So you can just take yourself off mute and ask a question, or you can put it in the chat.
And I think oh, sorry, real quick. I think you covered this, Jeremy, but just in case, there isn't, is there a fee for journalists to create accounts on C-Span?
No, we encourage you to do so. It's free. And so you can go right now and create an account. We have journalists do it. We have press secretaries on the Hill do it. We have offices on the Hill do it, and have everyone kind of create their own account if they want. And so no, there's no fee to create an account. And most of the time, if you download a video, there's no fee. Sometimes based on what the video is or the quality you need it, there could be a small processing fee, but that's rare. And so, but to create an account, that is absolutely free.
And Jeremy, I wanted to ask, because one thing that I've run into on occasion is most things on C-Span are free, but every now and then you'll click on something and it'll ask you to log in with your cable provider. And I know there's a difference between what's free and what requires a login, but that trips people up. So can you clarify that?
Yes. So basically, C-Span has, so there were 19 different events on C-Span today, and every single one of those events had a unique link that when it was live, you could click on that link and watch it live for free. Now, there's another place on our website that is to watch the authenticated cable stream as if you were watching TV. Now, that's at a slightly higher bit rate, I guess you could say. And so that's where you can log in with your cable subscription and actually see what's on TV. So you're not seeing just one hearing. If C-Span goes from our Washington Journal program to the House, the morning hour ends, and then we go to a hearing. If you're logged in via your cable account and watching C-Span, you'll see all those things just like you do on TV. If you're not logged in and go to our website and you're watching, let's say, just a journal and it's streaming and it ends and you want to then watch the House, you just have to go to the House page and watch that video. And so basically, everything on our website you can essentially watch for free. But if you want to watch the authenticated feed, your cable feed of C-Span 1, 2, or 3, you log in there. And so that's why I tell people on the homepage, find the event you're looking for and click there. Don't immediately start with the watch C-Span 1, 2, or 3. That's where you have to log in. Although I would encourage you to get cable, log in, and you're getting the full experience. C-Span is funded by the cable industry, and that's why I make the plug right there. We get 6 cents of everyone's cable bill, and that's kind of how we stay in business. So that's my plug for C-Span funding right there. So I hope that makes sense.
Can you
Yes,
ever
and go ahead.
can you ever upload directly to social media accounts, platforms?
So I think on the pages, I'm going to look real quick without sharing my screen. Yeah, on the bottom right of the videos, there's a icon, I believe, for Twitter and Facebook, and those will upload and pop up a window for those accounts if you're logged in. But if you're sharing something to TikTok or something where you have to upload a video, that's where you have to go through the download process, or just copy the link at the top.
Thank you.
There's a
So
question
Jeremy and
here,
Ed, go ahead.
there's a question here from a senior student journalist saying, what's the best part of covering Congress and the hardest part? I don't actually cover Congress. I'm the librarian. I'm not the person in the library doing the work. So I would refer you to Tia on that.
And I was going to say, yeah, Kayla's one of our student journalists, and I work with Ed a lot. And then, of course, I work with C-Span both as a fill-in host, but as someone who uses the C-Span site a lot. I know it's loud where I am.
I'll show you all. I have to like move my actual monitor. So I'm going to show you where Tia works. So this is the press gallery. Tia is usually right over there in the conference table.
All the time. And just so you guys know, Ed is giving us an exclusive view because photos are not allowed in the press gallery. So what you guys just saw was very exclusive. But I would say that if you're interested in covering Congress, again, you don't have to be in Washington. That's what this webinar is all about, is tools to localize, tools to look to see what your delegation member is doing or what people are doing on topics that interest you. And then you can take that information and make it fit whatever your local outlet is. You don't have to be in Washington to cover Congress. But do we have any other questions?
Yeah, and on Tia's point, so periodically I work in New Orleans, I'll come up. I was up in October for the House Speaker's race. But Ed, could you talk to people who may be on this call, give some information on, for especially broadcast people, what kind of cameras would be allowed in the tunnel? What you do if the journalist is walking with a certain member of Congress, they can do that and ask questions, but the big cameras can't, do that. Can you give some tips on that, please?
So I'm the newspaper guy. Within the confines of our bureaucracy, we have silos that made sense 150 years ago when television was not the dominant and newspapers were. So for anybody doing broadcasts, what I would recommend is that you check in with Radio TV Gallery. They are across the hall. They're just right over there. And they have lots of guidance on what kind of equipment you can use and where you can use it. There are places within the Capitol, so there are the area directly around the House chamber on the second floor. You can't take pictures. And you especially can't take pictures in the direction of the House chamber. But as soon as you get to the Will Rogers statue at the beginning of Statuary Hall, then you can take pictures, but only in the opposite direction of the House chamber. So there are definitely guidelines for different parts of the Capitol. So my recommendation is that, especially if you're bringing equipment and cameras, reach out to the Radio TV Gallery. Their number is 202-225-5214. or radiotv.house.gov, and they can give you all the specific guidance for broadcast folks. For the newspaper folks on the call, what I would do is, especially if you're visiting, check in with us. Check in with the gallery staff. We've got 6 people on the House Press Gallery staff that are tasked with helping print journalists figure out where to go and how to find the things that they're looking for. Tell us what you're writing about. And we have a pretty diverse staff of people. Some of them worked on our security team before they came to the gallery. Some folks were journalists. Some folks were press secretaries. I ran a tech company. So there's lots of different backgrounds on our team, and we can all brainstorm and give you guidance based on the specific thing that you're doing. But so my number one piece of advice is, swing by the gallery, say hi, and tell us what you're doing, and see if we can help point you in the right direction.
I have a point of clarification. Because I'm kind of confused. So I'm reading the rules to be admitted to the press gallery. It's pretty strict. It's saying you got to reside in DC. And
so to become a gallery member, to be a gallery member, where you get a hard pass credential and you have 24/7 access to the entire Capitol facility, you have to be DC based. So even like if we have New York Times reporters that come from New York, they are not eligible to be gallery members unless they are DC residents, people that live within a certain number of miles of DC. Having said that, we have lots of journalists that show up for a day to cover a specific event, to trail their hometown member, that sort of thing. So we offer day passes for folks that are just going to be here for a brief time. So if you're only coming for a day or a couple days, we can give you a gallery day pass. Serves the same function, gets you full access to the complex. The requirements for getting a day pass are the same as they are for getting a hard pass. So you have to be a bona fide news organization. On the Senate website that I posted in the chat, there's a list of all the requirements you'd need to follow. Now there are also 4 main press galleries. So I work for the Daily Press Gallery. For print journalists that publish every day, you'd come to me. If you're a print journalist and you don't publish every day, like a magazine, for example, you'd go to the Periodical Press Gallery. If you are a broadcast person, or if you're a radio person, then you would go to the Radio TV Gallery. And if you are a photojournalist, you'd go to the Senate Photographers Gallery, which operates on both the House and the Senate side. All the other galleries have their own offices in the House and their own offices in the Senate. So depending on what kind of journalist you are, and there are some news organizations that like, AP, for example, big wire service, they're credentialed through everybody. So they've got print journalists, they've got TV folks, they've got photographers. So depending on where you fall within that, you'd go to one of us, and each gallery has slightly different admission requirements. But if you have any questions, I can point you in the right direction.
My second thing was, so it says that no electronics, as Ms. Tia said, but so we got to go back to the olden days and use a pen and paper.
Where for? When she said about pictures in the press gallery itself.
No, it says pen and pad only. No cell phones, cameras, computers. They mean pen and paper, right?
That might be inside the chamber.
You might be talking about in the chamber itself. So in the Capitol, there's a House chamber, there's a Senate chamber. Within the chamber itself, the Speaker, the Majority Leader define the rules for what can happen in that chamber. So for example, it is against the House rules to take a picture of any sort in the House chamber. When you come into the House chamber, there's a bunch of cameras all around, and people call them the C-Span cameras. They're actually not owned by C-Span. They are owned by the House Recording Studio, which is it is an office of the House, and then the final production from the House Recording Studio is given to everybody who's credentialed to the Radio TV Gallery. And C-Span is the group that diligently and thankfully broadcasts everything, and we're very happy they do. But for example, if you wanted to take a picture on the House floor, the only way that you could do that was with the express permission of the Speaker of the House directly. So on the House side, you can take your electronic devices in the chamber. So you can take your laptop in the chamber. On the Senate side, you can't even take a smartwatch in the chamber. It has to be pen and pad. But the rest of the building doesn't have those. That's just in the chamber.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you guys. I want to thank Ed, thank Jeremy. We're going to close our webinar portion. And what we're going to do is we're going to transition just for a little bit to our task force, kind of an informal meeting to talk about NABJ 23, which is our convention. For those who don't know, NABJ 24 will be in Chicago. So it is time to start thinking about the NABJ convention. It is time to start making plans, saving up money, talking to your editors. I will put in the chat shortly. We have a tip sheet from the task force that is all about helping you get ready for a convention. So we have links to the convention information. Registration is not open yet, but it is time to start applying for submitting your Salute to Excellence award submissions. It's time to start signing up for the Student Mentor Project. So Kayla, I hope you're still on the line. You need to sign up for the Student Project. I need you to sign up for that. If you're a working journalist and you need a way to get your convention paid for, you need to sign up to be a mentor to the student journalists. Because yes, it's a little bit of work mentoring our student journalists, but it's also an all expense paid trip to Chicago. So I'm going to put that tip sheet in the chat in just a minute. But the other thing is it's time to submit your sessions. Now, you don't have to go through the task force to submit your session ideas. You can do that. Anyone who is a member of NABJ, as long as you're an NABJ member, you can submit your ideas for workshops or panel discussions during NABJ. But the task force we sponsor workshops. Last year we had